The next part that we have to go through, um, the creation narrative. The narrative of creation covers the first two chapters of Genesis. This is the first event. The first chapter is the overall work of creation, big picture, bird's eye view. The second chapter is a more focus on the creation of man, of humans. When I say man, anthropos here, human. The account of creation is different from contemporary science or history books, the way it's written, because of its focus on answering the questions of origins of life and the place of man in life. This is not a scientific book that you can read as you read textbooks today of biology. Nor it was meant for that. Is it a book of history? No. The book of creation, the book of Genesis, is meant for the church to know where the church is, or the man is, in God's life, in his plan. So the whole focus in the relationship between man and God. We said this is salvation history. We're not talking about a textbook of science. So if you want to try to look into scientific things in the book of Genesis, you're going to be lacking a lot of information. You got like, how can you include all the information about science in a book meant for man to save? It's impossible. So we are not reading it like a science book, nor like a history book. There is certain focuses we're going to come to see here about the relationship between man and God. It's going to answer some questions like the reason for the evil, sickness, and death. The explanation for the different nations and languages come later in the 10th chapter. God is the central operator in the creation narrative. Here is something for you to think about. This is an extra beside debated, should I put this or not? But if you want, you can look it up. Some had noticed similarity between the Genesis creation account and what they call Near East creation narratives, like the Mesopotamian civilizations, Sumerian, Akkadian, you can talk about the Babylonians, the Assyrians, had some creation narratives too, and we have records of that. I have a couple of here that I mentioned, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. You hear about that epic. You can read it. You can look out at it for entertainment on the Wikipedia or on internet. You can find the whole. They found cuneiform tablets telling the story of Gilgamesh in different ways, as a description of what happened at the beginning. And the Babylonian epic of Enuma Elish. These two epics were found in archaeology. And people looked at them and tried to say, oh, the Bible got this story from the story of Gilgamesh and got it from Enuma Elish. Nonsense. Because these stories talks about multiple gods. Some of them are evil, some of them are good. And they are trying to claw at each other, fight each other. And out of that fight came the world we know. But the Genesis account speaks of one supreme God who orders everything. And everything comes from him. That's totally different. So I want us, go ahead, read them, please, so you understand what I'm trying to say. Because there is a lot of people, skeptics, who wanted to say the Bible came from other things that was known at the time of Moses, and he used it to collect the material. Nonsense. In those epics, there are many gods, small g, who are in cosmic conflict, while the creation narrative in Genesis tells of the one God who created all things from nothing and in absolute control. Actually, in those epics, they take the body of one God to create something, and they take the chaos, which is the sea, to create something else. So those gods did not work out of nothing. They worked out of existent material. That's another difference. So they're multiple. The Genesis says one. They are not in total control, in conflict. And Genesis says this God is Pantocrator. He knows what he's doing. He's in full control of everything. This one says these gods worked out of existent materials, and the creation narrative said what? God created things out of nothing. That's very important. The word bara, I didn't include it. The word bara, and God created heaven and earth. Bara is only used for creation, for God to create from absolutely nothing. if it is used in that sense. Sometimes people say creative means an artist or something making something, but that's not the same sense. When you use it for making new things, really making it means from nothing. And it's only used in Genesis for God. The terminology, here is something interesting, and it's fun to tell you that this part is fun. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and the earth was the two words, without form and void. Hebrew, these are the words used. Tahu, bahu. Funny. Tahu, bahu. So what does tahu, bahu means? Tahu means desolation, worthless thing, adverbially in vain, confusion. You would say tahu to junkyard. Tahu is a junkyard. You look at a junkyard and you don't know what you're going to do with these things. So you say what? Tahu means kharaba. Something has no use, has no form. I can't really make a sense out of these things. It's a junkyard. What about bahu? It's empty. Does it really mean there is nothing there? No, there is things here, but those things does not have any function. They don't have anything. So they have no form, and there's nothing there I can use. There is nothing. You can say nothing. So when you say bahu, it's empty, vacuity, an undistinguishable ruin. It can be ruin, but it's undistinguishable. Emptiness, void. So to solve the first one of tahu, chaos, God created domains. Let me just give you the example. You want to build a house. Where you start? You would start by buying furniture or building walls. You have a piece of land that has a lot of rubble. It's a junkyard. Now you want to make a place that you can live in. Where you would start first? By building walls and dividing rooms or buying furniture? Where you start? Build the walls. So first you have to create bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, living room, a hall, a foyer, right? A reception area. And then you pick up your furniture and your pictures and they start decorating the stuff and filling those rooms. So God, to solve the problem of chaos, means no form. This is junkyard with no form. He has to first divide it into domains. So what did God do? First thing he said, let there be light. And then he separated the light from the darkness and called the light day and called the darkness night. Oh, we have now two rooms. We have day and we have night. Okay? They're still empty. But at least we have a very good separation between day and night. The next day, God said, let there be firmament. And the earth was completely covered with water. We'll talk about this when we talk about paleontology, where they're going to study the origin of earth. Water all over. So God said, let there be firmament. So he stuck his hand in it, I can imagine it this way. And all of a sudden, the water was separated. Water on top and water in the bottom. Water on top was like clouds and the water on the bottom. And the piece he created in the middle is the sky. So what do we have? You have a sky and you have a sea. Again, so you have day and night. Now we have another two rooms, sky and sea, day number 2. Then God said, let the earth come up. The earth actually appeared from under the water, which is very interesting. Look at the water from the sky, and you see that there is land coming up, like an elevator. Most probably it was volcanoes. And all of a sudden, rocks started to come up and break that continuous water sea. And he said, let plants be there. So you have 5th room, which is land. You have what? One room called day, one room called night, one room called sky, one room called sea, 5th room called, okay, let's go to the 4th day. So day 1, light separated from darkness. Day 2, sky, separate water from above from the water below. Day 3, land appears. In those 3 days, he created 5 domains, 5 rooms. Now, let us fill the house, which is the problem of Baho. How are you going to fill the house? Day 4, he said, let there be sun, moon, and stars. The sun will live in the, which room? The day. The moon and the stars will live in which room? So now he's filling the domains. Then the 5th day, we have sky and we have sea. What we're going to do with the sky? Let the sea bring up birds. Birds come up and fill the sky. And let the sea teem with sea creatures. So you have 2 rooms are now filled. The sky and the sea. You have, that's the 5th day. How about the 6th day? He said, now it's time for the earth to be filled. And he says, let the earth come up with animals and creeping things. So the 6th day, God created land animals. So you have 3 days to create domains and 3 days to do what? To fill, to give residence to those domains. We'll talk about why the sun and the moon and the stars actually were not really, didn't say that clearly that they were created then, but I'm going to tell you about this when we come to the paleontology, the formation of the earth. How did this come from the scientific point of view? How are you going to read that? So we have 6 days, 3 to answer Tahu and 3 to answer Bahu. 3 for no form and 3 for empty. Okay. Now we go to this very nice table. You have day 1 to 3, God made form, domain. Day 4, domains with an S. Day 4 to 6, God filled void. In day 1 to light, sky and sea, land and plants. Light he separated from night. And then he made the sun, moon, and stars to go on for. So every day has a counterpart. Every day has a response. And under Tahu, you have light, sky and sea, land and plants. Under Bahu, and for the light, you have the lights, the sun, moon, and stars. In front of the sky and sea, you have the birds and the sea creatures and dinosaurs. We'll talk about that. And then next time, land and plants, you have the animals and the mammals, and humans come to be created on top of everything in day 6. Okay, what about 7th day? The 7th day is the Shabbat. Creation comes to its culmination, top, only in the one day that has no counterpart. That day has no counterpart day by itself, stands alone. The Shabbat or the Sabbath, the organization of time into 7 days has been so familiar and so widespread that if it is easy to forget that unlike the moons, the month, which is in the Bible is lunar, and the year, which in the Bible never moves far from its solar base, the sun, the biblical week correlates to no astronomical event. You know how every month the moon have a cycle? It's 12 cycles every year. So that the moon, the month is based on the moon. How about the year? It's based on the sun. What about the week? So I know what the year is like. I know what the month is like. It's based on sun, moon. What about the week? What is it based on? There's nothing that the week is based on. The Hebrew people would say, I recently was listening to, that's a different one, a different documentary on the Sumerians, and they invented the number 60. Something to think about. 60. They said, why they come up with 60 for seconds and minutes and how they pile up to become an hour, and then you have days, and you have the 12 hours become day and 12 hours. They said because the first Sumerian used his hand as a counter. The thumb on the right side is the counter, and he counts the knuckles. So how many knuckles in 4 fingers? What's left? So he counts those fingers. So if every one of the 4 fingers have 3, well, how many knuckles he would count at the end of the hand? 3 times 4 is 12. On the other hand, he has 5 fingers. So every time he finishes one cycle, he bends 1 finger. So 12 times 5 is 60. That's how the Sumerian came up with it. They said, we will make a counter out of our hands. So this is 12, and this is 5. By the time I finished counting 5 times 12, I got 60. That's why they came up with the idea of 60s. That's different than the Egyptians. Egyptians used the numbers 10, 100, 1,000. The Sumerian used 60, 120, etc., 240. So that's the Shabbat. It's the 7th, and the 7th actually has a very significant thing. Now we go to the different words used. Good and evil. Every time God saw something he liked, he said, and he saw the light, it was, what's the word good in Hebrew? Tov or Tob. If you listen to the Jewish people, and if they speak in their own language, they would say something like this. Baker Tov, Laila Tov. What's Boker Tov or Baker Tov? What's Boker Tov? Good morning. What's Laila Tov? Good night. So Tov here is good. Laila is night, like Arabic. So Tov is the word God used to describe different things that he created. And God saw that the light was Tov, was good. They say the second day God didn't say anything about it. He didn't say anything about day number 2. But he said that twice in day number 3, compensating for it. At the end of it, God said 7 times good. And the end of it, he said, very good. What does Tov mean? Okay, here, it's very important because you need to understand when we come to the fall, the tree of good and evil. The first time the word evil is mentioned in the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Tov and Ra. Ra is evil. What's good and evil? Good is not something righteous or something saintly or holy. It's just pleasing. Oh, this coffee is good. The food was terrible today. It was raw. Does that mean that the coffee was righteous and the food was sinful? No, nothing at all. It is just something that's pleasing. It might be good, tov for you, but it might be raw for her, right? It's relative. So God has a way of looking at things. He looked at the light and said, tov. He looked at the plants and said, tov. When it came to human beings' creation and Adam was alone, he said, it is not tov for Adam to be alone. Didn't like it. God didn't like that. So good here is a very general term. Tob or tov. The word tobit. Tobit is the name of the book, and a man means the good man, the pleasing man. It's pleasing to God. Good as an adjective in the widest sense, used likewise as a noun, both in the masculine and the feminine, the singular and the plural. Good, a good or a good thing, a good man or a woman is like half a page, and I just summarize it. Beautiful, best, better, well as an adverb, general, very general term. All right, evil, raw, not pleasing to God, bad, or natural or moral, adversity, affliction, bad, calamity, displeasant, distress. So let's read this piece. God has the ability to differentiate between what was good and what was not. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. The Trinity, meditating the creation of human before creating them. God will create a family that images the Trinity, and the human family will rule the earth. The Trinity create a male, Adam, and out of him create a female, Eve, reflecting the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit as one entity, one family. The whole human race in the mind of God is one existence. I missed God here, it's missing. So based on that, humans also should learn what's good and what's evil, but God's way. Okay? Image and likeness is the next term, number 4. Image in the Hebrew, tselem, or in Greek, icona. And you read it in the Septuagint, the word is icona. What is icona? A picture. So it's the icon of God. Or a phantom in the Greek. Illusion, resemblance, a representative figure, something that represents something else. A picture. You and I are phantoms. This is how the Hebrews think about it. You are a phantom. You're an illusion of God. The reality is, sometimes we get so proud and say, oh, God is a spirit. He's like a phantom, like a shadow, like a ghost. We are the ghosts. He is the reality. He is the real thing. We are the ghosts. So there's two words, image and likeness. I am of the school of the thought that says image is not likeness. I'll give you an example. What is the difference between image and likeness? You might have a computer or have a processor and a memory and the hard disk, whatever you call it, all the components of the computer. That is an image of a computer. That's a computer. But what is the likeness? It's the function, the performance. If the computer produces the results you're looking for, it is like the original plan of the computer. But what if the computer has a virus and now is spitting out wrong messages? It has the image, it has all the parts, but when it comes to likeness, it is not like. So what I'm trying to say here, so what explains that is the good and evil. When we created in the image of God has the ability to make choices, and those choices are like God, then we are the image of God and also His likeness. But if I am a human being made in the image of God, has the ability to make choices and I have the freedom, but I don't make good choices, am I in the likeness of God? So actually to be like God, you're a saint, basically. These are saints. So every human being on earth is in the image of God. But to be in His likeness, only those who chose what God had chosen, who had made the right decisions. And the Bible from beginning to end speaks about this, how to make the image of God in His likeness. I am on that thought because there is this training process that God is going to put Adam in. I'm going to see it now. Humans are in the image of God, and that's number one. See this? God wanted us to have authority over all His creation, over the fish of the sea, the animals of the earth, the birds of the sky, over all the earth and creeping things. You have given to me, in the liturgy of St. Gregory, the image of your authority. That's image. We given authority. That's true. Everybody has it. The gift of divine breath, the nishma, I mean, God breathed into humans in the second chapter. That's also given to us to be in the image of God. What happens when we got the nishma, the wind or the vital breath? It's given us intellect, wisdom, knowledge, and speech. We can use them in the good, we can use them in the evil, but every human being have them. That nishma exists in everyone. It is the reason for our logic, our wisdom, and our knowledge. The freedom of choice is given to humans, as seen in chapter 2, in the creation of Eve. We're going to see that. Eve was created by a choice from Adam. When you read this, and I hope you read it, chapter 2, it starts by this. And God said it's not good for man to be alone. But then immediately after this period that comes, it's a very strong period. God said it is not good for man to be alone, period. And then what? And God made out of the earth all the animals and all the birds. Did He make them after Adam? No, this is one of the things that I tell you, don't read it as a science book. He's saying that these creatures came from the earth because He's planning to make Eve out of who? Of Adam. Those who came from the earth like Adam are not His companion. He's going to have to make a companion out of Adam himself. So the reason why He's mentioning the creation of animals is not the chronology, it's not the timing. They were created before Adam, but He's trying to remind everybody these animals came from the earth, not from Adam. So He made them out of the earth, it says, and He brought them to Adam to see what Adam would call them. Whatever Adam called a name, it was his name. What happened at the end of this? But for Adam, there was not found a helper comparable to him. What? God knows from the beginning. We just started by saying God said it's not good for him to be alone. God doesn't know that Adam has no helper? He's discovering this? Or who is discovering this? It's Adam. So why is God giving him the animals? One, because he is responsible for them. That's his domain. But two, and even equally important, is for Adam to realize, to understand, that animals have been created without a choice, families. There is a cat, he cat, she cat, kittens. He dog, she dog, doggies. Calf, and have a father who's a bull, and a mother who's a cow. These are families. They're nice together. So when Adam started to name them, he paid attention and he discovered they were actually animals. He said, wow, everybody is a family. Oh, and then the question that would come to his heart even before he said it, what would he say? What about me? What about me? He can talk to them. So when this happened, it says God put a sleep over Adam, and then he put him to sleep and took his rib and made Eve. Now, there is a freedom of choice in this one, that God didn't force Adam to have a family. He made him choose it. The unity of that holy family in the beginning was mimicking the unity in the Trinity. The Trinity is one in essence, reflected in the unity of human family as Adam is the source, even the children are from him. Something to think about. While image is the freedom of making judgment, the likeness is the alignment of the judgment with the divine judgment. We talked about this. Okay. All right. The last piece is very quickly, so I'm gonna stop here. This is the second piece, and we need to break this also for the video. The last piece is the liturgical aspects in the creation narrative. Again, please, if you didn't read, I think you're going to be lost, because this depends that you have read. It's very difficult to read and then go back into it. Pay attention to the reasons why I think it is the image of God, because of the authority. We said the gift of divine breath, that's from God, that belongs to God. That's our soul, our human soul, that gives us the intellect and the wisdom. The freedom of choice that we saw it in Adam, making a choice to have Eve, and the unity that comes out of them. At the end of it, he says, she's flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone. What language is that? A covenant language. So even in this covenant, you have two things. You have the image of God in man. What's that? Whose image are you? Your parents. So what the covenant is that? Adoption. But you have a man and a woman who is really, truly, one flesh and one blood. What's that? So this covenant, the first covenant, is two covenants in one. It's the progeny. It is the nucleus of all covenants to come. You have the marriage and the adoption in one covenant. God becomes the father of this couple, and this couple is one flesh. So you have the two covenants in one, the adoption and marriage in one place. And I'm going to give you the last piece of it is the Sabbath, and we're going to talk about it in the next piece, with liturgical pieces in the creation. Creation is very extremely important. I can tell you, there's a woman, her name was Margaret Barker. If you look her up, she had done extensive studies on the creation and the tabernacle. And it's wonderful, something that would blow your mind about how Adam was a high priest in the garden. And this garden was the temple of God, where God lived with them. And he had an eternal covenant with God. This was the covenant meant to be. And it's through Christ we restore that relationship again. So let us go into the liturgical aspects in the creation of a creation narrative. In creation, God acted in ways reminiscent. What does the word reminiscent, those of us who need to go to the dictionary, reminding us, give us a hint, its own looks like, of a priest. Where do you see it? One, the action of separation. God separates light from darkness. And this gives you an idea what a priest should do. Keep it for liturgical. Priest always makes a very sharp cut between what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's not good. We have a curtain that separates us from the Holy of Holies. And we have today as iconostasis, or a partition between us and the altar. We have a very holy place. We go there, we take off our shoes. And when we take communion, take off your shoes. And everybody jumps on somebody's throat when they come with the shoes to the communion. Stop, take off your shoes. That is an action of a priest. This is priestly work, to separate You can wear your shoes everywhere, but when you come to take communion, you have to take it off. That's what God's going to do with Moses, is stop, stand back. And Moses would understand, and he would take off his shoes. So the first action of separation, when God separated light from darkness and called the darkness night and light day. The second action is blessing. Every time God's created animals or birds and sea creatures, he barak. Barak is to bless. God blessed the birds and the sea creatures and the animals and the humans. On the seventh day, he did a very interesting action, and he blessed and sanctified the seventh day. Where do you hear that? And he blessed it, Amen. And he sanctified it, Amen. Where do you hear it? Which day? On Sunday, usually the traditional day, the day of the Lord, is when we come here and do what? Blessing and sanctifying over the bread and wine. And that's how we bless ourselves and sanctify ourselves. So the second one, the first action is separation. The second action is blessing. And the third action is blessing and sanctification. The main work of a priest in the church is to bless and sanctify. The words of the institution, which I just recited them, are at the heart of the liturgical work of the church. He blessed, he sanctified. This is done over the bread and the wine as they are prepared to be the body of Christ. So God did not rest by me stopping all actions. He changed the mode of action from creating to blessing and sanctifying. So we change the work that we do every day. You go study, go to school, study, and your parents go to work and gain money. And then you come on Sunday and you do something different. It is another work. We call it liturgical work. Liturgy means work of the people. We do work. But what kind of work we do? We bless and sanctify. So God didn't stop working on the seventh day. He rested, meaning ended his work as a creator. And on Saturday, he's going to bless and sanctify. The 7 days of creation parallel the assembly of the tabernacle. This is the second point. They say, and Margaret Barker said this too, said, everything God created has a resemblance in the tabernacle. He created light where there is a menorah in the tabernacle. There was plants and seeds. There is actually oil and bread in the tabernacle. There is separation. There is a veil that they put in the tabernacle. So tabernacle took how many days to assemble? 6 days, and was sanctified on the seventh. The temple took 6 years and was sanctified on the seventh year. So there is a great parallelism between the creation narrative. I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to talk about in Exodus. God said, when you hear this word, and God said, there be light, how many times this God said happened? Guess. 10 times. Which is paralleled by the 10 Commandments in the Exodus. Okay? The 10 words, they don't call them commandments, say the 10 words God spoke to Moses and the people. So there's a great parallelism between creation narrative and the covenant at Sinai, which means they have a lot to do with each other. Then the 7 days assembly of the tabernacle, each creation period begins with the night and then followed by the day. We don't say day and night, we say the night and the day of the first day, the night and the day of the second day, which we do, and the Jews do. They know that the night starts at 6 p.m., sunset. The day starts at sunset. So if you're going to pray Vespers now, we're going to pray Vespers. Is it the Vespers of the 23rd or the 24th? Is it the Vespers of Saturday or Sunday? Sunday. So Sunday is starting now. Once we finish this Bible study, this pre-servant class, we're going to have a Vespers. It's for Sunday. So in the creation, again, night and day. It's very important we talk about the cross of Christ. Every period of darkness is a night. Every period of darkness, even if it's 2 hours, it's a night. In the cross, Jesus had to go through 3 nights. I'm almost done, so bear with me in the last piece. A covenant with humanity. The elements of the first covenant between the Creator and humans are in the creation fabric. In the last chapter, covenant was defined as a familial bond, as in adoption or marriage, blood and flesh relationship. I insist this is the case. The making of humans in the image of God makes humans the family of God. If they are to choose to live with God and obey God, They are his family. When the genealogy of Adam was written, the genealogy started with God. He's the father, because that's his family. It's real. It's reality. But God is the father of Adam, both in Genesis and in St. Luke. The creation of Eve was from Adam after gentle coaching process by God to make Adam see that it is not good for man to be alone. We talked about this. And when Adam makes the realization that it's not good to be alone, God created Eve from Adam's rib. Eve came out of the body of Adam. So when Adam looked at Eve, he realized that she is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. And this is the language of the covenant. Eve creation was made from man in contrast to the creation of animals from the ground. And in the creation of Eve, the language of the covenant is used to describe the relationship between the man and the woman. The same could be applied to the children they beget. They are flesh of their flesh and blood of their blood and bone of their bones. The covenant with God was intertwined with the covenant made between the couples. The covenant with God is an adoption covenant, and the covenant between the couples is a marriage covenant. The Sabbath is the seventh day. This is important now. The Hebrew word for seven is Shabbat. Elizabeth is Elishabat, the daughter of seven. Bathsheba, the daughter of seven, which is close to Shabbat, to swear. Shabbat, seven. Shabbat, swear. Okay? So to say, to seven oneself, or bind oneself by seven things. The Shabbat, or the Sabbath, is the day that came immediately after creating humans. Adam wakes up from his creation, and Eve creation finds himself in the seventh day. What does that mean? And the seven means to swear. Think about it. So after the creation of human being on the sixth day, they enter into the seventh. I can imagine. Adam was created at 5:30, 5:59, 5:30, and 5:59, Eve was created. It took him 20 minutes to kind of look at the animals and figure things out. I'm just joking. So at night, they begin the seventh day. So why is the seventh day is called the seventh day? The Sabbath is God's oath to humans to father them. That's the oath of the covenant. The Shabbat is the seal of the first covenant. Through Adam, God was making a covenant with all creation who was under Adam's stewardship. There was a commandment in that covenant not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that is a covenant. You have adoption, and you have marriage, and you have a swearing of an oath, and there is blood and flesh involved, and there's a commandment. What do you have? That's all the elements, almost all the elements of the covenant. Okay? I'm going to stop here and see if anybody has a question, and I'm done. Have one chat. Next is Genesis 3-5, which is the fall. But I'm going to go over a bit of what would the scientists look at the Genesis, find out something about it next time. It's interesting about the words in Hebrew. What would be? So some people would ask, where are the dinosaurs in Genesis? We know dinosaurs existed. Is there anything that is contrary to science in this? We'll try to see if there is something contrary. Okay? I'm not interested in explaining everything into science, but at least if there's anything major clashes, we need to figure out if this is really a clash or not. Okay? Reading 3-5, chapter 3-5. All right, let's say our prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, make us worthy, O Lord, say thankfully, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory now and forever. Amen. May the love of God the Father and grace of His only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you. Even peace be with you. Going to the eve of Sunday.